Hey YouTube, did you hear? Level Up Together is getting back together. And we're going to be doing more Abyss guides. What's going on, guys? This is Arkaden and welcome back. I know it's been a while since we've gotten a chance to make a video, so today we are going to go jump right into it with Abyss Floor 111. Guys, if you were a part of any of our 101 to 110, you know that RNG was like the thing that was most frustrating about the first time around. Well, so far, this one hasn't been nearly as bad. However, there is a tiny bit of RNG, which we'll talk about here on this particular floor. But before we do, just like always, let's take a look at the teams. First up, you're going to notice that we have Adventurer Ras. One thing I'll note right off the bat, he is wearing Arius, which means that we did use him for a lot of damage mitigation, just right off the bat. Second, you'll note that if you don't know much about the character, his S3 does give a defense buff to the entire team, which is nice just for even more mitigation, and it heals himself, which is kind of nice, but it is AoE, and you try to avoid a lot of that in this particular fight, so even though I use it a couple times, it's mostly because it's mostly just to get that defense buff up and maybe a tiny heal on him. Main reason that we're bringing Adventurer Ras is his S2. The S2 is going to always dual attack with the highest attacker and has a chance to defense break, which is why you'll note that we have effectiveness at like 123%. That's a little bit overkill for this particular boss, but it does at least get the point across that if he is going to land a defense break, it should land, which is really, really nice. Also, the other nice thing for this particular boss is the ability to strip buffs from the boss, and he does have that on his S1. So, Adventurer Ras, easy character to get, and very, very usable for this fight. Next up, you'll note we have Tamarinne. Tamarinne, just like every single time we use these for Abyss videos, is just insane all over the place. We did use Symaqus staff. A lot of the reason for that was A, you get a little bit extra healing from that, as well as just generally the fact that it also gives you more effect resist. Effect resist is really important. As you'll note, we have 137% on her. I mean, gosh, as much as you can get to make sure that you're not getting any poison stacks or any of these debuffs, it gets very annoying and very hard to keep up with. So the more ER, the better. This particular Tamarinne is actually not wearing my PvE set. I ended up swapping it over to a little bit better would be used for probably PvP type setup, just so that we would have good effect resist, decent speed, and then also be pretty thick. If you're not familiar with Tamarinne, she is currently a banner as we're making this video, so pick her up. She's like the best PvE, like honestly, unit in the game. Does have attack buffs, boosts, strips, heals. I mean, she's got it all. So she's really, really, really useful in rotating, cycling, and combat readiness pushing your team throughout the entire fight. Next up for this fight, I've got two units actually that are going to be ones that we didn't get a chance to even have last time we did any Abyss videos. You may not have these characters, and if you don't, there are definitely other solutions for it. But let's go ahead and talk about this. I ended up bringing Fighter Maya as my option for my frontliner for this. Now, there's a couple reasons for that. Number one, when Fighter Maya gets attacked, she's going to put a defense buff on herself, and if she was debuffed, it's going to just cleanse that debuff. Being that there's a lot of debuffs in this fight, and having the character up front there to be the first one to hit it, RNG would say that more likely than not, you're going to be able to get rid of a lot of debuffs just having her up front. So that was super useful. You'll note that we also put Adamant Shield on her, so that way you end up getting kind of an Adamant Shield and an Aureus with the Aros to give yourself a lot of mitigation. I actually don't have amazing gear on her. In fact, it's pretty atrocious. I made an 85 ring here on counter just so that I could have a counter effectiveness ring, and it is bad. It is not good at all. So to put into perspective, she doesn't have to have the best gear, she just needs to be on kind of the right things. And so let's say you didn't have Fighter Maya, things to consider would be maybe Fallen Cecilia, or any kind of tank that can be up front, be really, really thick, can wear a counter set, and then has a really high chance to provoke on their S1. That's the single most important thing about this, because provoke is like can be like game changing for the Mui phase of this particular fight, which we'll talk about here in a second. So anything that has high provoke on the S1, a decent counter set, and having at least enough effectiveness that if you're gonna actually land it, it doesn't get resisted, because that provoke is ginormous. The final character for the list is going to be Specter Tenebria. I realize that in the past I've said Specter Tenebria is kind of a hard character to get, so try and find ways to be able to avoid that for your videos. Okay, I'm going to give you guys a second option. So Here's why Specter Tenebria is probably the best, I would say, for this particular floor at the moment. She does have poisons, and the boss can actually get poisoned. That's kind of a big deal because poison ticks are really, really big, especially since they're percentage based on how much damage they're going to run too. What we're looking at here is Caladra. So Caladra is the artifact, and that's going to give you more damage based on how many debuffs you have on the character. So having defense breaks and also poisons is going to give you a little damage boost to Specter Tenebria. Note that you cannot use Daydream Joker for this particular fight, so anything that gives you a damage boost is going to be a win. Also note that we are using a Rage set. I think that I have probably a better Destruction set than Rage set, but I went with the Rage set because when I tried both of them, the damage still was higher even on a lesser Rage set. So I suggest if you can put one together, just do your best. You want to try and have as much, if you can get close to 100% crit, good crit damage, good attack. Those are big things to get on your Rage set when you're building it. Other options that you could use outside of Specter Tenebria for this particular fight would be most likely, I think the best character is probably Fire Symaqus. Symaqus is just really, really good, has a lot of like huge damage. She's also single target like Specter Tenebria is here, because again, you don't want to do a lot of AoE, which we had mentioned, but we'll talk about that in the fight. Just really hard hitting damage that you could probably put a Victorious Flag on to give her a little bit of mitigation as well as extra damage, and throw a Rage set on her too, and she should be great. So now with the team kind of squared away, let's take a look at what it's going to take to actually get through Abyss 111 so that we can cut your RNG factor down a ton. Jumping into phase 1 of this fight, you'll note right off the bat that you are going to be going against a Heat Symaqus and then 2 converted Symaqus as well. Some of the most important things to kind of note here is that the converted Symaqus, the little ones, will actually counterattack you whenever they're debuffed. So again, a big reason not to have AoE for this fight, at least for phase 1, is literally you just don't want to get counterattacked by the converted Symacuses. Less damage is always going to be a win, especially since they have a chance to stun, and then they also can kind of like recover their own health and stuff too, so why even fight them? Let's just go for the big guy. Another thing to note is on the Heat Symaqus, after being attacked twice by a light or dark element enemy, it gives weakness exposed to flame to the caster for 3 turns. This particular thing is like a permanent debuff that gets put on the Heat Symaqus for itself, which is actually a benefit to you, increasing your damage received from fire element heroes by 50%. So we're obviously not using like Symaqus for this fight, but that's why Symaqus would be really, really good for phase 1 in particular, not to mention the fact that Mui is also element disadvantageous towards her, so it's actually kind of just good for Symaqus as well. Taking a look though, I would say if you're gonna pay a lot of attention to anything in this particular fight, it's that at the end of the 5th turn for the Heat Symaqus, it's going to grant an extra turn and rampage. That rampage is going to increase its damage, and it's going to start getting stackable attack and speed. So as fast as you can, you want to get through this particular phase, which is another reason why you don't want to be screwing around with the adds. You want to basically just put all of your damage directly into the Heat Symaqus. If you actually end up want to burn anything, I suggest burning Ross's S2, just to be able to try and get some of those defense breaks and just put damage into the Heat Symaqus ASAP. Once you get through this phase, you move on to the next one. This one's not too terribly hard, but I do know that if you get past like turn 5, it can really start to ramp up quickly. So moving into phase 3, you're going to notice that there is a Mui, 2 Greedy Katies, and an Aztesta there. For the most part in this fight, the basic strategy that we have here is ignore the 2 Greedy Katies and also the Aztesta, because the Aztesta can come back and the Greedy Katies are probably going to have evasion or other buffs on them, just due to Mui being pretty annoying. Some of the most important things to kind of note for this particular fight are Provoking. Provoking is huge on Mui. If you don't do it, she will use an ability called Punishment, and if you do land it, she'll use an ability called Lash. Lash only hits one person. Punishment hits all of your people, and it hits really, really hard. So keeping that up as much as possible to mitigate a lot of damage is a big deal, not to mention the fact that you also get a lot of debuffs from that as well. So basically, long story short here, when Mui actually does start converting and moving buffs over, she will put evasion on like at least one of those mobs at a time, which is why you want to kind of avoid using AoE here. If anything evades, she will actually just lash herself and kind of like come to protection for that particular mob. So you want to just ignore using AoE almost exclusively. The few times that I use it are only on when Tam is trying to get a nice dual attack in, which can potentially strip, which would be really nice too. But also on Ras, I think I use it once during phase 2 just so that I can get up a defense buff. But I more likely than not would say ignore that. It's better to strip buffs with Ras on his S1, and even more so, better to be able to land those defense breaks and dual attacks with the S2. Most of your burns during phase 2 are going to be with Ras. I can't really see using them for anything else. Arky doesn't really work here, so don't even bother. So long story short, with all the different mechanics that exist here, there's a couple like things to just really like nail this down. Number one, do not use AoE, because you're just going to get retaliated on even more, so it's just not even worth it. Number two, make sure that you're landing as many provokes onto Mui as possible. That is why we are on a counter set, and that should be very, very beneficial for you. Number three, when she is on her grand finale or her S3 for Mui, she is not provocable. So if you're going to provoke anything, provoke one of the green Katies, because it probably, particularly the one that A, doesn't have evasion, but B, might be doing its S3 at the same time. This can mitigate a little bit of damage, so that's super, super huge. And then finally, for the fourth thing to kind of like consider here is you're wanting to get as much damage as you possibly can just into her. So don't focus anything else. Focus just her. Land those defense breaks with a little bit of RNG. If they can constantly land, that makes it even faster. But as many of those as you can, as many dual attacks, and constantly stripping off all of the buffs on her so that that immunity doesn't end up being a problem. So that's going to be it for 111, guys. I know there's usually just like giant paragraphs when you're trying to read through all of the abilities all of these characters have in the Abyss, and so hopefully this helps you out a good amount. If you haven't gotten a chance to even get this far and you're just watching because you know what, I just love Level Up Together, and holy smokes, they put out another piece of content. Great. Glad to have you guys here. Welcome back. We're glad to be able to put out some more guides, and hopefully we can streamline this YouTube process a little bit better and just, I don't know, get better. That is the idea of leveling up together, right? So all good stuff. If you are new here, make sure you guys like, comment, subscribe. Tell us what you think in the chat. Appreciate that a ton. All comments are honestly good comments, assuming that they're good comments. I mean, just let them be constructive comments. But yeah, guys, appreciate you a ton. We will be back with 112 here very soon. Enjoy the rest of your day. Have a good one, dudes.